I think as you get older, I was brought up as a Christian, but the older I get as a teenager, you start dropping out of church. And I don't know if that happens in a Muslim family, or that's maybe more strict. I don't know. But for me, it just drifted away. And I think the older you get when I was younger, to following Christianity or any religion, I think it gets more difficult. I'm not saying it's impossible, but I think some people do want to find something. But for me at the moment, I don't. I just try and be a decent person.
What are you gaining when you become a Muslim, and what are you losing when you?
For me, I'm not losing anything. In my view, I'm not losing anything. So if you become a
Muslim, you don't lose anything. You gain the salvation.
Well,
so we invite you to become a Muslim.
As a Christian, I would as well. But at the moment, I'm back to what I've been saying, is just trying to be a decent person. And that's because, as I said...
Well, when you say decent person, like, who defines what a decent person is? Like, what's the criteria for a decent person?
Kind, look after people, be respectful. Those sort of principles in life. That it's nice to have some people, and if they're not, then everybody. I don't know. Everybody loses their temper or loses their way for a minute or so, but that's life at the moment. But to follow, I'm not at the moment. I think, as I say, that the older you get, from a Christian point of view, for me, it's like out to go back to church. I think, to be honest, if Jesus or Jesus came back on earth and saw that the money that the church has, he'd probably be disgusted with the amount of, the church had so much power back in mid-century and things. I think he didn't even have a worshipping place. It was just nothing. You didn't need anything to worship. So for me, I think it'd be...
So that's interesting. You've made a very good point. In fact, that's one of the contentions I have with certain religious ideologies as well. For example, there's a Hindu festival in which is a giant idol, and everybody gathers milk and just pours it over the idol, and it's just wasted. In Christianity, of course, you've got the process that the big priests and the vicars, they don't get married, and because you're stopping something that is natural, it's a force of nature, frankly, to procreate. And when you're restricting that, somebody made a good point. They said, so the best of the Christians are the priests and the vicars, they're not getting married. The best of the females are the nuns, they're not getting married. Who the heck is getting married? You know what I mean? So the thing is, Gordon, I guess the point that I'm trying to say is, bearing what you've said in mind, Islam doesn't fall within that trap. Because let's just say you were to convert to Islam. Let's just go through it. On the spot, all you'd have to say is, I testify there's none worthy of worship besides God, and I testify that Muhammad is a messenger of God. You would say the English, so you understand it. You say the Arabic. That's it. You wouldn't need to be put in water. There wouldn't need to be somebody with cloaks coming. There wouldn't need to be a ceremony. You could just do it with a, broken cup in your hand and an Italian dinner in progress bag. It's literally as simple as that, Gordon. And the thing is, because think about it, if the message is coming from God and it's God's message, and we're saying that, look, the Quran is not going to be, changed, doctored, and it's God's responsibility to look after it. It doesn't matter what humans do. Like today, if every single scripture was burnt, every single, ancient Abrahamic scripture was burnt, the Quran is the only one that can be written word for word. Because of what Brother Mansour said, it's memorized, it's preserved through a live language, through manuscripts. And when it comes to your connection with God, even as a non-Muslim, you have a connection with God. You can raise your hand. If I was to oppress you, you know what Islam tells me? That even if Gordon was to raise his hand against me, God would hear your prayer as well. So you don't have to pay something to a mosque, or you don't have to go to an imam and say, okay, come 4 o'clock with 30 pounds. No, anybody who's a Muslim, you raise your hand. There's no, even the 2.5% of our annual savings that we give every year, every Muslim that, their money reaches a certain nisab, level, the threshold level, we give it to the poor people. And if we're slacking with that, we're held responsible. You can't just give it to the imams or the sheikhs or the muftis. It doesn't work like that. And even the mosques as well. It's exactly like you said. Prophet, peace be upon him, used to pray very simply. And you might, even if you're lucky, as you're on your way out, you might see some Muslims praying, just on the side over there. Even as you leave the park, literally on a mat.
Yes.
It's simple as that. Even if, let's just say that bag, because the place, if it's a bit impure, I just put the bag down. I just determine which direction is the Kaaba, the black stone.
I used to go to West Africa a lot on holidays, and it's 95% in Gambia are Muslim, 5% Christian. So, I see the guys every day morning. I didn't understand when I saw them. They had lots of these fancy coloured pots, and when I went there initially, I went, what's all this for? And then when you watch them, they're cleaning their hands and their feet, and then they're praying. So, okay. But I didn't know anything like that.
It's literally as simple as that.
Yeah,
because Gambia, you're right, I've had the honour of going there a couple of times. Fantastic people.
Yeah.
And because it's a hidden gem, not that many people kind of crowd it with tourism, so it's fantastic. But exactly that. Just a bottle of water you can use to wash yourself, get yourself ready for prayer, and then just find a mat or a bag just so you don't put your head in an impurity. And that's it. Anyone can pray. And that's the thing, that if someone is claiming that this is truly from God, surely it should be accessible to everybody. You bring 2 6-year-olds here, you try to explain the concept of Trinity to a 6-year-old, it's going to be very tricky, very difficult. You explain the concept of Tawheed, the oneness of God, to a 6-year-old, it's going to be very straightforward. So I guess, Gordon, what I'm doing is I'm just scaffolding these points, and I'm saying that, look, if something truly claims to be from God, surely it should be accessible, number one. And number two, exactly like you're saying, it shouldn't be person orientated. Like, if I want to get close to God, surely I shouldn't have to pay somebody, I shouldn't have to rely on a certain garb or attire or a building. And in terms of, I would say, the older a person gets, especially post 25, I would actually argue that people, especially Muslims, they try to search for God more. I'll tell you why, Gordon, because, I'm sure you know the statistics. Men, every hour, there's a man who's committing suicide. And the heartbreak, because men, are more kind of invested in a relationship, especially when it breaks. Men find it difficult to get over that.
Yeah.
So the thing is, the more a person is in relationships, the more a person's getting fired from work. I mean, just living life and just dealing with the kind of response and the problems that life, gives to every individual, it makes a person think, what's the point?
Exactly. Yeah.
And Gordon, it's when you think, what's the point? That's when, that's when God and that journey to God becomes closer. Because you're like, okay, which God? And that's what brings Mansour's example. Could it be a rat? Could it be an idol? Could it be, a spirit and God and Son all in one, or is it just one God? What makes the most rational sense to me? We delve a bit into science. Justin Barrett did at Oxford University. He had a study that says that people intuitively, inherently, are predisposed to believing in a God. So a person's like, okay, so there's this thing inside me that, like, I have this inclination. It's like a fingerprint. The Creator's left this. When I look at everything, the tree comes from a seed. Someone plants that seed. Okay, when I see the concrete came from somewhere. The shoes were designed from somewhere. The shirt was designed. The watch was designed. Nice watch, by the way. The cup was designed. Everything's designed. Then surely I must have a designer. And my designer should be easy to reach, shouldn't require money, shouldn't require heavy, garbs and money and stuff that a poor person in Gambia wouldn't be able to do. No. So the beauty is, you saw the poor person in Gambia, he was able to, do the ablution, and you're able to see maybe, one of the brothers from Edgware Road who are a bit well off.
Yeah.
Them doing wudu, they'll be doing it maybe, in a fancy basin. But regardless, whether you're rich, whether you're poor, Islam is accessible for you. And you will see As you're leaving, there'll be, because here there's only one row. When people are praying, Mansoor will be there, who, God willing, he's able to articulate Islam very well. But even somebody that isn't, that's just wandered into the park, they'll be standing shoulder to shoulder with him, regardless of what stature you are, regardless of, what ethnicity you're from, shoulder to shoulder. And you have one individual who has the most knowledge. Again, it reflects the Quran that the highest of you are those that are high in deeds. Only that person is an imam, and sometimes the imam is even of a smaller age than the people following him. So that's the beauty, Gordon, and that's why we're able to tell you so categorically, and we're able to say, no, Islam is not like the things that you're going to be hearing. We're saying that Islam is special, it's unique. In every character, in every race, Islam will get the gold medal. It will come to the top. In terms of preservation, look, Jesus spoke Aramaic. Aramaic's not a live language. It's not accessible. People can't access what God has said. Why would God pick a language that's not accessible to the end of time? Okay, then you got the Torah, Hebrew. Hebrew again is not in the top 10. It's not, a mass used language. You got the Vedas, then Sanskrit. That's not a live language. So the Quran is in Arabic, it's a live language. Manuscripts here in the University of Oxford you can get. It's memorized from beginning to end by children as young as 6. So surely a holy book that if I'm saying, Gordon, you must follow this book, and you're like, all right, is this the same book that was there at the time of Revelation? We can categorically say yes. Christian will say no. The Torah, the Jewish person will say no. The Hindu person will say no. You're like, okay, +1 for Islam. What about the sayings that your prophet said? What about him? Gordon, we've got chains of transmission.
Yeah.
I can tell you that the prophet said this particular thing. Al-mar'u ma'a man ahab. A person will be with whom he loves. I can tell you we got it from Ahmad. And then I can tell you he got it from Muhammad ibn Abu Adi. Then I can tell you he got it from Humayd at-Tawil. Then I tell you he got it from Anas ibn Malik. He got it from the Prophet Muhammad. I can tell you every single person in the chain. I can tell you how reliable they are. That's what we need. We're seeing so much misinformation that Twitter needs community notes. Are you on Twitter?
No, I don't use it. I can't. As I say, I love watching different documentaries about either religion or Jesus or things. And there was a film made, we all know about it, and they tried to ban it in the 80s, The Life of Brian. It was about Jesus. But they said that the point that they were making, it wasn't going against Christianity or religion. What they were actually saying was, over 2,000 years ago, we would have been all standing, not here, but over in the East, 2,000 years ago, arguing about different sorts of religions. When Jesus was there, he was like, that prophet, and there would have been other guys. That's why in one of the parts of the film, somebody's sandal came off, and everybody's going, "That's a sign! Follow the man with the one sandal." There were so many different types of religions and groups, whether it be false or not. And back then, we'll never know, I guess, what actually happened, why everybody followed Christianity, and why a lot of people followed Muhammad as well. But I love watching him, but I keep open-minded. And
I'll tell you why, Gordon. You've actually raised a fantastic point. Because there's a thread of truth in all of these religions.
Yeah.
Because as Muslims, we accept that Jesus came with a book called the Injil. But then we believe it was distorted, therefore there was a need for another revelation. So there is truth. There's some truth in the Bible. We believe there's some truth in the Torah. We believe there's other prophets that have come with wisdom. That's why, the thing is, when you're just sealing the deal, and that's the beauty of Islam. A Jewish person would say, no, we don't accept Muhammad. A Christian person would say, we don't accept Muhammad. A Muslim would say, we accept Jesus, we accept Moses, but we just believe that the Prophet Muhammad is the last prophet. They all came and they all spoke about monotheism. they all spoke about, how to live one's life and not to be a slave of one's carnal desires. So there is definitely truth in all those things. But just like with anything, when you go to a shop to buy shampoo or soap, when it comes to shampoo, there's like 25, 30 different types of shampoos. And we don't stand there paralyzed with choice. Immediately we say is, like with me, I might go for the anti-dandruff one. Somebody might go for the sensitive skin one. But in order for me to do that, I should go there, I should read, I should see, it's free from SLS and colors. Okay, why? What's wrong with SLS? Do a little Google search, do my research. So it's the same, Gordon. Like on Netflix, you get these wonderful documentaries. But there's so many of them. How do you determine which one you're going to see? Because you read the blurb, you're like, how much time do I have, and can I watch this, and is it done by a credible source? What are the stars? What are the ratings? So I guess I'm saying the same for Islam as well. That if something was truly from God, it wouldn't have died. The language wouldn't be archaic, inaccessible. It would be something accessible. You'd see the people today. The religion would be the talk of the town. The only religion that's the talk of the town, the only religion that's the fastest growing religion, according to Pew Research, is Islam. And if you look at the vices and the problems, look at women, 2 out of 3 women are being sexually abused. But Islam says, you know what? Tell the believing men to lower their gaze. Shouldn't be eyeing up women, and tell the believing women to cover themselves. Like you shouldn't be displaying, your beauty. I mean, that beauty is for people more deserving, not some random Larry walking the street.
I was, my ex-wife was a Muslim, but she didn't follow it too much. But what she said, she didn't really follow it. She's going back a little bit now and doing some things. But she said that sometimes some things in the Quran, like women covering themselves, that is taken out of context now. And she said what does it say, cover your nakedness or something like that. But in her view, it was like, it's just gone too far. But if I'm going to argue the point here now. If God had given a woman such a beautiful face, why would he want her to cover it up? Basically, that would be my argument. And I think, I don't agree with that, but that's my sort of thingy. Why would you want to cover up your own face?
Gordon, would you say the breasts of a woman are beautiful?
Absolutely.
Why are they covered up?
Decency.
You've answered it.
Decency, but
I'll tell you. So the Western level would be just to cover the top bit and the bottom bit. The Muslim level is just to extend it. So the question now is, how do we determine which one is the correct one? Do you see? So that's when we then go to an objective source.
Going back, 2,000 years, when would that have been introduced then? I can't remember what it's called, when women would cover themselves. Was that when Muhammad was alive? Women covering themselves. That was brought in then, or was it brought in before that?
So bear in mind, every prophet that's come, they've come with a sharia, with teachings. And the thing is, even if you look at the Mother Mary, Jesus' mother, that's even spoken of in Christianity, whenever they depict her, they never depict her with long blonde hair flowing in the wind. She's always got her hair covered. You see?
But I don't know. Maybe I'm a bit ignorant for that, but maybe that was the way that they dressed without being religious. They might just, I don't know.
I mean, a Christian would argue, who would be more religious than the mother of Jesus? You see? It has to come from, the supposed, according to Christians, the mother of God. This is a woman that surely is giving birth to God. So, if it's not religious, then what is it? It has to be religious. So that's what a Christian would say. I would argue, even when you look at Sikh women entering the Gurudwara, their hair are covered. When Hindu women are entering the temples, their hair is covered.
Yeah.
So this is something innate. And then even if you are to be a skeptic and you're supposed to say no, I would then go to science. And I would say, what have the scientific experiments told us about the sexual kind of representation of the hair? And the studies do tell us that the hair is innately sexual. And it does have sexual value. You can check this, researchers.
I think some Indian men as well, they cover their head. It's very, I don't know what religion they are, but in India,
The Sikh
Sikhs,
people.
yeah.
Because it's not covering the hair, they're tying the hair because the hair is quite long. Because they cannot cut their hair.
Yeah.
So if they open their turban, it will be like a woman's length hair.
Yeah.
So they're forbidden to cut their hair. Religious ones will not cut their hair.
But they going back to this stage, I think
They believe hair is holy. I think that's the point you want to
don't
say.
even have to wear a helmet. They can.
Yeah.
They're exempt from various things because there's such a big hair accumulation.
A big helmet for
So,
that.
Golden, I just want to bring back to the same point, which is I think is very important for you to reflect on. You as a Christian understand...
I wouldn't say.
No. Culturally Christian.
Okay, yeah.
Understand how people can be religious or not religious in a belief system. You can link that with the concept of God and guidance that God gives through people that organized themselves in worshipping God through collective guidance. Because we live in the communities, we don't live in isolation. So that's why religious laws and rules and regulations, dietary laws, whatever, they come as a package. So when you compare all of this and look at the trace and you trace the history that people are corrupting the message of God. That's why the cultural packages, what they give you, there's some falsehood and some truth all mixed up. What we're saying is, now start thinking the most critical way in which, how do we decipher and filter and sieve out the all truth from bits and pieces of truth out there. If there were no all truth package out there, then you would say, okay, I'm going to take some from here, I'm going to take some from there, and so on, right?
Yeah.
But if you have a package which is exactly representative of a whole complete truth package, that is the best alternative to go for. And this is what we are saying is Islam. So when you research and look into it, if it makes sense, you know what to do. Two things to declare in your heart, with your tongue, and then you start practicing, become a Muslim. How many billions of Muslims?
About 1.5 billion.
1.5 billion Muslims upon the earth. More than 1/4 of the earth population is a Muslim. You are going to be one of those proud submitters to God, God willing.
Well, for me, I think as well. I think maybe it might something might come to me, but at the moment there's nothing. I'm not looking for anything, and so I'm not down. I'm not sometimes in your lowest point.
Gordon,
you look for something. Well,
Islam
maybe
is coming to you.
Maybe
You're not going to Islam. Islam is coming to you. Today, Islam came to you.
Sometimes people ask for a sign, isn't
Islam
it?
came to you today.
It doesn't always happen. Even in life, I look for it. Sometimes you look for a sign for anything. But it doesn't always come. You have to do it
That's
yourself.
a good point. That's a good point.
Islam came to you today, Gordon.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
All the best.
Nice talking to you.
Take care.
You.
It was a pleasure speaking to you.
You too.
And
Nice.
hopefully we meet again in the
Gordon.
park in
Nice
Seoul.
talking to you guys.
Carry on speaking with your Muslim friends. Read the Quran. Read a biography of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. There's all to gain, nothing to lose.
Yeah.
Because all we are trying you to do, like ourselves, is to be safe from the hellfire. That should be our primary focus, to be safe from the hellfire.
And if it was from a human being, the things and the practices of Islam would be centered around human beings benefiting. But the fact that it's from God, Islam came to preserve 5 things. Firstly, religion, which is to protect monotheism, which from a fiscal sense doesn't make sense. Because the more idols you have, like the Arabs before, the final testament came to the Prophet, there were so many idols, and there would be a payment that you do to come and, cleaning the idols. A lot of people are employed to say that there's one God and, he's not around you, he's not an idol that you can kind of buy and purchase and stuff like that. That's actually logically, goes against that notion that, it's about money. Then about life, killing. Islam is against. That you take one life, then it's like taking the whole of mankind. Then it came to, then number 3 is intellect. That's why things like alcohol and drugs are forbidden. Otherwise, it would have made sense that the Prophet would have been merrymaking with beer and with women and stuff like that, and he would have justified it in some way. But when money was offered to him, he declined it. Now, what I found really fascinating about this, he was offered women, money, and all of these things. He said no. Somebody made a good point. They said saying no here was actually very significant, because him saying no meant that he could never say yes again, because you're closing that door. Because if he says yes a year down the line, people say, oh, but what about then? Oh, so you're after the money, so you want this, you want that. Immediately proves them to be wrong. So then you've got intellect, the alcohol, that which is big business. A lot of people off licenses. You tell them, look, why are you selling alcohol? Oh, so many people buy alcohol. And even in Qatar, Budweiser, people enjoy themselves and this and that. So, the Qataris saying no to alcohol was a big blow. Yeah, and it forced a lot of people to actually think and go, you know what, I'm actually forced to actually appreciate what's around me rather than being drunk and just going about my life. And then you've also got, it came to preserve wealth. And that's the reason why in Islam, interest is not allowed, because it makes the rich richer and the poor poorer. Whilst with the Prophet, peace be upon him, it would have made more sense. But you know what? Once a year, just give me the charity money. Prophet didn't take a dime. When he left, he didn't leave with much. And that was non-existent. So the thing is, interest, which again, the big, a lot of money. And it came to preserve family. Now what about family? Oh, if you do adultery, that's not allowed. You're breaking the family, and that affects society. Whilst it would have made sense for the Prophet and his companions to be merry-making the most. Oh, no, we can do this. But Islam says, look, there is a desire for a man to have a woman, but you do it in a proper way. You get married to her. There needs to be 2 witnesses. Yeah, you recite the words of God. You give her a gift. Yeah, you make sure her representative is there, and you don't treat her well. That's half of your religion that's been corrupted. Half of your religion. So Mansour said about, look, you look after your parents. So it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense that if something was truly from man, why is it not feeding the desires of man? Why is it going against our desires, saying no to alcohol, no to adultery, no to drugs, no to interest, and no to breaking of the family? So Gordon, the more you go now, the thing is, it's like, when you're buying a car and you're going to buy a black BMW and you're on your way home, you tend to notice all the black BMWs. Because now you're kind of more open and conscious to that. And, there's a German philosopher, Theodor Adorno, he said magazines, TV, news, and all of these things, they're a form of distraction. He was an atheist, said these are a form of distraction that actually take us away from making political impact, and secondly, from questioning your purpose. So, I actually sympathize with the fact that maybe you're not thinking too heavily in this because of, look the rat race. You have to get up. If you're not earning, if you're not doing something, you're not paying your taxes, you're out on your rear. Your kids don't want to know. You have to be somebody. As a man, you have to be a high value if you want to keep a woman. Otherwise, like what? There's a saying. They say everybody has an inherent value. A pet will have an inherent value. You love them regardless. A child, you love them regardless. A woman, you love them regardless, except for a man. You ask him, what does he do? How much money does he have? So for us, we may have come across it, but it may have been in a different wrapping. And that's why Buddhism has appealed to you, because these principles of Buddhism, I would argue, most of these principles, if not all of them, are in Islam. And the things that aren't there are actually things that are just restricted to certain individuals. For example, just going and living in a mountain. Not everybody can do that. But this concept of stepping on one's desires, that's in Islam. The concept of meditation, that's there. In fact, it's present in a more advanced form. Rather than just sitting and just repeating a mantra, what you're doing is you're repeating verses that are transcendent. These are verses, not just a random word, but these are words of God. So each frequency, each hertz or whatever you want to call it, it resonates not only with your heart, not only with your ears, but with your soul, with the things and consciousness. We don't understand it resonates with even our consciousness. That's why when you speak to certain Muslims, they will recite the Quran, just giving you a kind of flavor of what the Quran offers. So when we pray, we are merely reciting the words of God. And what are we doing? Oh, hurt this person, do this? No. All praise be to God, the Lord of the worlds, the most kind, the most merciful, Master of the Day of Judgment. Thee alone we worship, Thee alone we ask for help. So again, what's materialistic about these things? And that's why even newspapers that tend to post anti-Islam headlines like the Daily Mail, if you Google this, they will say that the happiest people are the Muslims. I think it was in 2016. And that's the thing, Gordon, that now when you're a bit more aware, it's the thing, like when a person, like God says this as well, you claim that there's no God, but when you're in a ship and it's sinking, you call out to God. So we do call out to God, and I sympathize with you because there's so much attention and there's real intelligent minds vying for our attention in the form of free social media. I mean, every few months there's a new social media coming out. Just recently, a new social media came out that's going against Twitter. What was it? Threads. And then we had Snapchat and the likes. They're vying for our attention. They're trying to, even TikTok, I think it was like a certain amount of seconds, then it went to a minute, it was 30 seconds, then it went to a minute, now it's gone to like 2-3 minutes. So they want you to be on there so they can sell you stuff. So I sympathize with this fact, but then again, I will also ask you, when you're just sitting on your way home, are you going by car or by public transport?
I'm staying in a hotel 5 minutes away. Yeah.
Let's just say you go to the hotel and you sit down, like you're standing here so politely and giving us this wonderful conversation. You go home and you're like, I'm tired, and you sit down. That time that you're just sitting down or you're just looking out the window, you're thinking, what's the point of it all? Where am I going? So the Quran says this, it sympathizes with these thoughts and says, فَأَيْنَ تَذْهَبُونَ? Where are you going? Well, what does it mean? Do you feel that you created everything? Do you think that you came from nothing? And reading this, Gordon, and giving it a chance, I promise you, it's not even I think, I promise it will resonate with you. As long as you're sincere. But I'm conscious of your time, and thank you for your time.
Nice talking to you.
Likewise.
I just try and, as I say, it's good to have an idea of a different religion and what their religion is. Not to have an argument with somebody, but just to understand it.
Yeah.
Basically. Yeah. I mean, I also like one of the documentaries was, I don't know if you've heard it, not that long ago, maybe 30 years ago, they found these, the Black Sea Scrolls.
Yes.
And that changed a lot of things. We haven't really heard much about it, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think a lot of things have found that basically they said that Jesus might not have been the person that you think he was, but we don't know because they're not really releasing it. But I find all that very interesting. That's where my curiosity comes.
Well, I guess what we think about that is, if you're telling somebody that disbelief in something will result in you going to hell, surely it needs to be something accessible and categorical for the layman.
But I think as well, if they, if there is something written in the Black Sea Scrolls, I don't think they've deciphered everything.
Yeah.
It's got to the point where they say, well, should we release this because this is totally contradicting what was written in the Bible, or who knows? But it's very interesting anyway.
Yeah, 100%.
There is a film, because you're into documentaries, called The Message. Who was the actor that played?
I don't know, but he's a really good actor.
That's an old
Anthony Quinn.
Oh yeah,
Anthony Quinn.
That's an old one, yeah.
Try watching that.
Okay. Message.
It gives you an overview of the life of the Prophet.
Okay.
The Message. Anthony Quinn as an actor.
And he's very accurate.
Right, take care.
Take care.